You are listening to the Cattle Call Podcast. This is the place where computer-aided design and drafting meets humor and practicality, with a touch of business acumen thrown in for fun. Jim and Rocco, the owners of Zentech Consultants, the premier U.S. technology consulting firm for architecture, engineering, construction, and manufacturing, discuss the fascinating world of CAD with some humor and some honesty. The Cattle Call Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cattle Call Podcast with Jim and Rocco from Zentech Consultants. I am Jim, your vastly entertaining host, and with me, as always, is my partner,
Rocco.
See, no entertainment there, and that's why I'm forced to make you all suffer through the engineering joke of the week. All right, Rocco, you ready for this one?
I'm ready.
Why do structural engineers make such great friends?
Why?
Because they are really good at supporting you. Huh? Yeah. Keep being not funny. I'll keep going down to deeper holes, bro. Oh, goodness. This is all Rocco's fault, people. He makes you suffer through this. All right, folks. So we have a first-time guest on today. We have Dan Whitcombe, who is the Manager of Product Management for AutoCAD Desktop Products at Autodesk. And he is here to talk to us about AutoCAD. And Dan, thank you, number one, for being on the show. And number two, how do you make use of that word salad of a title?
Yeah, it's definitely a mouthful. I sometimes just call myself the product line owner for AutoCAD Desktop Products, but that's not what's officially on my business card. So we make it work. How about that?
Make it work. There you go. I like yours better. You should talk to the marketing folks. You go, look, man, this is what it needs to be. All right. All right. That's good. But we do appreciate you taking time to be on the show, man. And on today's podcast, I want to talk about AutoCAD, right? And both its current state and where it's heading for the future. Before we get into that, though, let's learn a little bit about Dan's background in this arena. So despite the crazy title, Dan, what exactly do you do over in Autodesk land, and how did you end up there?
Yeah, great question. So in my current role, I am essentially, for the AutoCAD desktop side of the world, the buck kind of stops with me in terms of getting the product out the door, making the right decisions about what we're going to put into each release, how we're going to release it, how it fits into the overall picture for Autodesk, as well as what our customers want. I also lead it's kind of an interdisciplinary council called the AutoCAD Leadership Council, and it's consists of the head of software engineering, the head of QA, head of UX, and together we lead this council that is responsible for maintaining the health and the release of AutoCAD. So while I am a product manager in this role, I'm kind of a little bit of a jack of all trades. So I'll coordinate with legal, I'll coordinate with marketing, I'll coordinate with strategy, as well as my leadership and management above me to make sure that this very important product to the company is healthy every single year. But in terms of how I got here, it's kind of a little bit roundabout, but I was actually an architectural designer by training. I did my undergrad at Yale in architecture, went back to Yale for architecture school, but also got my MBA at the same time, mainly because I love designing buildings. I'm a longtime AutoCAD user myself. My partner and my friends are all in the architectural world and use AutoCAD every day. So when I close my laptop, I can't turn it off. But I didn't love the actual practice of architecture. I loved when the thing was built, but I thought there was more intriguing ways to go about this design world and being involved in this. So that's why I got my MBA as well. Turns out one of my professors is a former VP at Autodesk, a guy named Phil Bernstein, who's partially responsible for the evolution of BIM. And he, through a series of connections, I became an intern back in 2019 with the AutoCAD desktop team, and then got invited back, and the rest is history. So I'm just hit 5 years and still looking forward to seeing what's coming.
Interesting. That is a road, man.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, definitely.
So maybe you should take that and summarize it, folks. If you have anything you want to complain about with AutoCAD, Dan's your guy. That's it. That's what I heard.
From 9 to 5, Monday to Wednesday only.
There you go.
Or Monday to
9
Friday.
to 5. I would do from 5 to 5:15, man. cut the complaint department down. So, All right. So, look, I think that there's a belief out there that basic AutoCAD is dead, right? That the larger industry-based verticals like Revit and Civil 3D have kind of, taken over the world, and only old men like, me and Rocco still work in AutoCAD. And I think Dan disproves that. I don't think it's true. And I think Dan is here to tell us about, what AutoCAD is doing today to be more productive and relevant, and what his team over at Autodesk is doing to make sure that it grows into the future with all the new tech that's coming our way. And a big shift that I've seen in the AutoCAD world over the last few years has been in their integrations with cloud capabilities. So let's kind of start there. So Dan, what do you see as the role, I guess, of cloud-based collaboration for AutoCAD?
Yeah, it's a big question and responsibility that we've begun to really tackle in the time, I think, since I've started on the AutoCAD team. I would say when I started about 5 years ago, we were just at the transition point where AutoCAD was really going from being thinking on its own a little bit, being its own little ship within the company, to really expanding our reach to be more of a player within the broader ecosystem of Autodesk. And I think it overall represents a shift in how Autodesk has been thinking about its products in terms of series of products. Instead of individual products, they are individual tools that help customers in the execution of a broader project. So none of our tools are used independently. They're used differently at different times. So in order to do that, we have to have better ways of connecting all of our software together in such a way that, one, furthers collaboration for our users, and I'll explain a little bit more about what I think that means in a second, but also allows data to persist between these different products. We need to, and slowly have been getting better at making sure that a door in Revit is a door in AutoCAD, is a door if it needs to go to Fusion, and there's not this tedious process of importing and exporting, redrawing, making sure everything fits, because all of it needs to be able to communicate with each other, because users just need to get these designs out the door. But in terms of cloud collaboration specifically for our users, it's something that I think we feel we have a responsibility to help shepherd our users into that environment. So as I'm sure you're very familiar, the AC industry is a little bit on the slower and more risk-averse side of updating to just a little, but modern technology, and for good reason. There's a lot of risk inherent. There's deadlines. Things like these take time, but the investment in that time to make that digital transformation, we just published our Design and Make report for 2025. It has an ROI. It pays off. I think something like 55%, I don't know the exact statistics, so don't quote me on it, but 55% of companies who have made this digital transformation do show this ROI. And so we need to, one, convince our users of the benefits of this cloud-based environment, and two, make it easier for them to transition to this environment. So there's a lot of different tasks involved. And third, of course, and most importantly, is we need to build out the functionalities and decide what those functionalities are that are going to enable that collaboration. So the approach we're taking is that building features that, yes, they work in some ways the way you work today, but they work in such a way that if you have a file on Docs, you are getting the primo, most collaborative, most zippy, least buttons to click AutoCAD collaboration experience. So I can keep going, but let me know if I'm rambling.
I think that's great. I mean, and I agree with you. I mean, I love the idea of what you guys have been doing in terms of moving, towards the idea of, one set of data and just use whichever tool you need at any given time, right? Which package you need for any particular part. And I think, that AutoCAD has been a big base for it. And I think that's why you see a lot of people moving towards the suites, right? Rather than buying individual softwares nowadays. It's like, look, I can use, Revit for some things and AutoCAD for some things and Civil 3D and then Forge and, all the different components. So I think it's the right way to go. So, I think in terms of the cloud-based tools, right? I think the first one that I personally saw like a huge benefit for with AutoCAD was what you were just referring to, right? The Autodesk Docs functionality, right? The ability to share and sync drawings and related files online with anyone, right? To keep us all working with the same data. It's a huge benefit. And it's something that I talk about on this podcast all the time. And I talk about with clients every single day, making sure that your design data isn't siloed and that we're all working with, the latest and greatest. It's vitally important to any successful design build project. So Dan, let me ask you, what do you see as the best uses of a tool like Docs for collaboration, and why is it so important for AutoCAD users specifically?
Yeah, great question. So one way I like to think about it is it's important to know that we're still building out Docs, right? And understanding what Docs can do and be for the design user. It's no secret that Docs is the offshoot of software that we acquired our PlanGrid software that we acquired back in the day, and that became ACC, and part of that was what became Docs. But Docs' original incantation was really as more of a construction management file storage tool, and then we very much quickly realized that Docs is actually the place that Autodesk can build out a purpose-built AEC cloud storage tool. Users can go out there. Of course, they can use OneDrive. They can use Box. They can use Dropbox. Those are cloud storage providers. But we also know that our customers have, when it comes to cloud storage, they have very specific needs. And we are working to build out Docs as, yes, one, cloud storage, but two, it's cloud storage for the AEC industry. And so what that starts to mean is that when you have a file in Docs, we know that you might need some data from Revit. You might need to put a drawing in Revit from AutoCAD. You might need to reference Revit data within AutoCAD. So in the future, when all of this is mature, these things will be able to talk to each other in that format. For right now, some of the things that I think are very exciting that we've built out is just better, when a file is in Docs, having better awareness about what others are doing within the context of that file. So I'll give an example. One of the features that I worked on for several years, and we just released a new capability for it, is the Activity Insights feature. And what we recently just released in AutoCAD 2026 this past March is an addition to that feature that's called What's Changed. And what that does is if your file's in Docs, is it's saving almost a log of actions that are being performed to that drawing by other people. So let's say you're designing an airport, you have a huge project team, different consultants on the project, everybody's got their paws on the drawing, and all of you know exactly the chaos that can ensue there. And you want to know what's going on, who did what when, or you need to go back and see what went wrong when. Well, we're able to basically have a little, somebody sitting on your shoulder with a little journal just writing down, okay, Patricia plotted this and sent this off, or transmitted this and sent this off, and it automatically pings the back end, and you're able to see information about the deltas that changed within a certain person's session with that drawing. So you can see how big the file size changed, or how many blocks were edited, or things were purged, or certain situations like that. So just giving you more information about what's going on. And in that way, I think the DWG stops being just a three-letter extension at the end of your file and really starts being this source, this font of usable data and information that we can help make sense of for you, but also put back in your hands to understand how you want to use it as well. Because we are not the only ones that know what you want to do. You know what you want to do. So it's about that duality there.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's real important. So Rocco, let me ask you, like you talk with our clients all the time, right? How important is this, this cloud-based collaboration for design files? How important do they see that?
Yeah, I'd say that I think the COVID era really exaggerated or really expedited, is the right word, this whole process of working through the cloud, and people have become a lot more comfortable, right? even today, people are still working from home, in the office, on the road. And I think prior to that, a lot of people were still hesitant. I don't know, go to the cloud, So I think it's important, and there's a lot more people using it today than there were even 5 years ago.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much what I see too. So I think, one of the things that is always a concern when you're developing new technology to integrate with a long-standing system like AutoCAD. It has got to be integrating your new tech with existing processes, right? It's got to be like putting a jet engine into a wooden airplane frame sometimes. Your core system just wasn't built to support the power that new technology can bring to the table, right? But you also you don't want to abandon a really well-developed and powerful system like AutoCAD so that you can bring out the shiny new toys. So Dan, how do you deal with that, right? How do you balance, I guess, the new innovations coming out against the need to maintain the best parts of AutoCAD's core functionalities and their familiar user interface?
Absolutely. So I actually find this task to be one of the most challenging but also most rewarding aspects of my job, because we're able to really drive some impact here. So the way I like to think of it is I frequently use this metaphor of, if AutoCAD's a house, a 40-year-old house, there's new types of windows, new doors, new systems, new solar panels, all of this shiny stuff that is really, really important and is going to ensure the longevity of said house. But if you build it on top of a cracking foundation, it's all going to come down without ensuring that you're putting equal and measured effort into that foundation as well. So it's about making sure that we are, one, listening to users and understanding what they feel those core and essential and familiar everyday experiences are in AutoCAD that they've been working with 5 days a week for the past 20 years of their career, and making sure that those functionalities are in the best possible condition they can be in. And so we've really made a concerted effort as we've started developing AI tools and cloud collaboration, trying to help users think differently about the future of the way they work and how they might change the way they work. At the same time, listening to users and understanding what they need now. If you talk to users right now, they're like, just make it faster, right?
Faster is always better.
Open, layout tabs, things like that, just help me go faster at my day-to-day. Don't teach me new things to do in AutoCAD, right? Why are you developing this ML feature if it's taking me X amount of time to open a file? So we have listened to that really, really, really intensely and have made dedicated efforts. So one example is we have made concerted efforts on the file open speed. So I think this past year we are 11 times faster on average at opening files on LAN networks than AutoCAD 2025, and 22 times faster approximately than AutoCAD 2024. We also improved the application startup speed significantly with this past release, and we're going to continue making these kind of investments because we know that this is the type of thing that affects the way our users work with AutoCAD every day today, all the time. It's not like when I just need to do that one workflow. It's every time I open a file, it needs to be fast, and that's what we're trying to do. We're also looking at things like we've heard people for years improve hatch. I remember from my days of, there's a very standard practice before you do a pick point hatch, save your file, right?
Always.
Because you don't know what's going to happen on the other side of that. And you'll notice it's a lot better. And I'm really proud of the work that we did there. But, it takes going back into our code from the early 90s and rebuilding it, right? And so it's about these measured and strategic places to where we put our resources to make sure that we're balancing these core capabilities with this future, because we can't just focus on those core capabilities because that's too short-sighted. We need to make sure to also maintain the longevity and the relevance of these workflows and this product, or else we're not really solving the problem.
Yeah. No, and you're absolutely right. It's funny back in the 90s when I was still a CAD manager, I had it written in my handbook. always save before you run
Yep.
the hatch. It was there. That's funny. But yeah, you guys have done a much, much better job on that. All right, I tell you what, folks, let's get a break in here to listen to today's sponsors. And when we come back, I want to talk with Dan about new technologies like AI and others, and how AutoCAD's going to work with those moving forward. All right, so stick around, folks. We'll be back in just a minute with more of the Cattle Call Podcast. Hey everybody, this is Jim and Rocco with ZenTech Consultants, and we wanted to talk to you a little bit today about the training options that we have available here for you guys at ZenTech Consultants. We offer public training classes as well as private custom courses for all of your software and design needs. So, Rocco, why don't you tell the folks what kind of training we offer and how do they reach out to us to get it going for them?
Yeah, Jim, we cover everything from Bluebeam to Autodesk to Microsoft to BricsCAD to civil site design training and beginner through to advanced level topics. Like you said, both public and private courses. If you got a group and want to run a class specifically for your team, we can help you. So just feel free to hit our website. We're at zentechconsultants.net. That's ZENTEK, or you can give us a ring, 866-824-4459, or even drop us an email, sales@zentechconsultants.net.
There you go, ZenTech Consultants for all of your technology training need. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Cattle Call Podcast. We're talking with Dan Whitcombe of Autodesk about how AutoCAD is not just alive and kicking, but actively growing in the modern technology arena with tools for AI and advanced collaboration, right? Tools that are either already integrated or looming just over the horizon. And AI, of course, is the mega change of the decade, and it's become pervasive in every single software product on the market. And I don't imagine that AutoCAD is any different. So Dan, what's the AutoCAD approach to AI and machine learning and the automation that it can bring to users?
Yeah, it's something we spend a significant amount of time thinking about and talking about because we want to make sure to do it right. And we've been working on our strategy and innovation in AI and ML for maybe 5 years. I've been putting out features for a while now. But first and foremost, our approach to AI starts with trust with the customer and responsible data management and intake practices, transparency as well. And that is at the center and is at the very start of everything we're doing. And that's really, really important when we talk about CAD and our customers because we understand that our customers are working with information and data that is not necessarily theirs, but they're acting on behalf of a client. And that client has sensitive information, and sometimes that is very private information. It's very sensitive information. And so we can't just say, oops, we accidentally used this data in this way. These things have real stakes. So that is just to lay the foundation, priority number one for us. Now, number two is how we deploy AI. And I think our thinking about this has changed over the years. I think all of us, including the general population, after ChatGPT launched, everybody was, wow, this thing can do everything. And now we're all thinking and are aware of what the actual real pragmatic limitations of AI are. And so we're not trying to smoke and mirrors our customers about what we can and can't do. So we're trying to just make targeted investments. And what that means for us is starting with AI being a partner for our customer, not a decision maker, and building out tools that help automate familiar workflows before we start and really invest in building out tools that are entirely new workflows. And so what I mean by that is when you think about the work we've done with our blocks AI tools, where we have helped customers when you're placing a block, let's say you're placing, a bunch of symbols throughout your floor plan for your electrical plan. And I don't want to have to rotate that arrow every time or that triangle every time so that it faces the wall. Well, luckily, if I've placed it once with the blocks placement tool, it can snap it right into position as you need it based on inferences about how you've already placed it. Also, using ML, we've trained these algorithms to use image recognition to understand what blocks look like each other and potentially replace a block in a single click with others from your own block library that might be relevant to that block. And it does that both by a visual recognition of that, as well as using the name of the block, right? So it makes a decision about what is the more relevant piece of information in order to surface. But also building that AI into other workflows. So not just doing one-off algorithms that only work for one workflow, but using those algorithms in other places. And so what I mean by that is I just described the block replacement. We also built out a tool called block search and convert. And what that does is I can select an unblocked geometry. Let's say I bring in a messy Revit file or a vector PDF that I want to turn into a CAD. I want to clean up that drawing. I don't want to have to go through and manually turn everything into a block that should be a block. Well, I can select a group of geometry. I can tell AutoCAD to look for exact matches of that geometry elsewhere in the drawing, turns it into a block. They all become instances of a single block. But here comes that replacement algorithm back. It can also say, hey, this group of geometry actually looks like something from your own block library you already have. Do you want to just replace all of them with this? And thereby helping CAD admins ensure that their users are keeping their drawings clean and are using approved blocks in their block library, not creating a mess with new geometries. So those are just a couple examples of those things that people wish they didn't have to spend time on in AutoCAD. And then in the future, we're thinking about, and this is where we're being very careful, but we're thinking about how to apply what we call generative AI to AutoCAD. And we've moved a little slower on this because it's important to, because inherent in the way our users work is precision, right? And so it matters if something is a couple inches off or a geometry is wrong. And if we do that wrong, we're going to lose trust with our customers immediately. Yeah. And so when we do these things, we want to be slow and make sure to build them out right with the help of our customers. So we're still doing research on that, but that's generally our thinking about how we do this.
Yeah, and I like that approach. I think you're absolutely right. If you can build the trust and get people comfortable with what AI can do with something they already know and understand, and they can verify it, as you move into newer things down the road, they're going to be a lot more apt to trust what you're telling them. So,
yeah.
I mean, I think, I'm sure the question that everybody listening is asking about, AI tools and processes and machine learning is, great, but when and how do I access those, right? I mean, it's always nice, right? We talk about, what's planned for down the road, but a lot of people just want to know, hey, how do I access, the block replacement tool today, right? And how do I, things that make their job easier and faster, like we were saying earlier. And as a business owner in this space, I can't say I blame them, right? We're all trying to do more with less these days. So, Dan, how do all of the AI, machine learning, cloud, and automation tools that we've kind of been talking about today, how do they play into your current release of AutoCAD?
Yeah, so we just released AutoCAD 2026 this past March, which built upon a lot of the tools that we had in AutoCAD 2025 and then a couple also earlier. So some of them that we built out, I just described the block placement tool as well as the block replacement. There is block search and convert, which I described. We also have an ML tool called block detection. And what that does is the search and convert tool uses exact match technology. It is able to recognize exactly the same geometries. Detection allows things to be a little bit fuzzier. And what it does is I open a drawing and I say, scan my drawing for things that you think should be blocks based on how we've trained it, based on what people generally like to turn into blocks. And then surface those things for me and let me decide and let me manipulate it. So therefore kind of taking the onus off the user a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And in this past, so we released that in AutoCAD 2025. In this past release, we increased the detection capability by 30%. Before that, we also had released what's called the markup import and assist tool that we've been evolving over the past 3 years, I believe. And what that does is I can digitally or hand mark up a physical copy or digital copy of a drawing, and I can import that directly onto the relevant DWG in AutoCAD, those markups, and then it uses what's called OCR, optical character recognition. It's a type of ML algorithm to turn those markups into actions. So if it says erase this door, it'll prompt me to run the erase command. Or if I write text like add note, blah, 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 it will automatically turn that into the requisite text as an M leader or something like that. And so all these little things. And then, of course, we've continued to evolve that tool to be more connected to Docs. So that brings me back to Docs to connect markups made on the markup tools in Docs directly into the DWG. So now I can make a markup in Docs on a PDF and then actually push that. It automatically knows what DWG in that same project it's associated to. I can assign that to a drafter. That drafter gets an email, hey, you have some markups on a drawing. They can click that email, it opens CAD, and it's all connected. We've also done a lot more work to integrate Docs issues into CAD, so you can actually see those issues, which are another way to mark up drawings in Docs, directly in CAD. Some other cloud connectivity, especially with Docs, that we've put together is with this past release. This is actually very exciting, I think. We released a feature called Connected Support Files. And what this essentially does, if I have a DWG in Docs, in the past, historically, support files, so these are your line types, your hatch types, your so on and so forth, all those things you access from the options dialog, those were dictated on a individual computer level. They had to be assigned to the computer. And any drawing that I opened had to be associated with those support files that have been set up. Now, if I have a drawing in Docs, those support files can be referenced at a project level. So I can have one instance of AutoCAD open, 2 drawings open from 2 different projects, each referencing different sets of support files. And that's never been, that we haven't done that before. That's new. We've also released on the web tool something called multi-user markup. And what that allows is it's kind of a, I'm not going to say it's multi-user editing, but it's definitely in that camp of the world where multiple users can be editing or adding markups digitally in web to the same DWG at the same time without creating a copy of it. So it's like, I would say that's definitely stepping our toes in the waters of multiple users working on the same DWG at the same time. But again, doing that slowly so we get it right.
Nice.
And so that's just a few of the highlights, but many more exciting things over the years.
Yeah. I have to look at that. I didn't realize you guys had added in the multi-support for the different files. That's really cool, because that's always an issue, right? You know, you go in and you open up, you go to print something, it's like, oh no, it's using, or you know, I don't have their CTB file or STB, and now it's a mess. And having that linked on a per project basis, I like that. I have to look into that. So that's good stuff. So Rocco, I mean, people ask us every day, right? We talk to people in the construction space about, AI and AI for the construction side. But how many people do you see looking into these advanced features for, AutoCAD and other, related design tools with AI?
Yeah, it definitely comes up more often on the construction side, to take off and estimating. They're looking for ways, they're looking for miracles, right?
Yeah.
In AI, it's funny. There's like not a day that goes by that we don't talk about AI. It's like we all dream it. But on the design side, you guys were talking about trust a few minutes ago, and I don't hear as many people asking about it, but I think sometimes of the scope of people that are using even AutoCAD, right? I was on the line today with a potential customer who's 75 years old and has been using AutoCAD since it was started, so you think about the evolution of just AutoCAD alone, and yeah, there has to be a level of trust, and I think Autodesk is doing it right in weaving this functionality in, because there's no easy, like Jim says, the easy red button, right? That's that's going to take care of everything all at once, and people are afraid of that, right? You don't want you to lose your job to AI, but you can't ignore it either. So Autodesk is obviously, they've always done it right, and you're a technology leader. But yeah, weaving it in and building trust and slowly deploying all this technology is, I think, is key.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, so one other thing that I kind of wanted to touch on here today, right, is the idea of CAD in general, right? 2D CAD and AutoCAD, being outdated and no longer needed as we're moving towards, that fully immersive digital twin, type of world, right? And I don't think that's even remotely true. And I honestly, I don't think Dan is going to either, right? But I'll let him tell you that. So let's put it this way, Dan. What do you see as CAD's role in this new digitized world?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think first and foremost, fundamentally, is if we understand, as long as, of course, there are movements for 3D models to become the deliverable, right? But that is the days when that replaces 2D documentation are far away. And I think as long as we are still relying on 2D documentation and traditional conventions, plans, sections, elevations, details, in order to convey design intent to contractors, and those are still the standards for legal documentation and everything for the construction of our built world, there's going to be a need for the tool that creates and thinks in 2D. And if you look at what our users ask for and how they use our products, they still see AutoCAD as the place to get down to the nitty-gritty. That there is something elegant and beautiful about what AutoCAD has built over the years that allows the user most closely to think as they do with a pencil in their hand. And we see that people are still using CAD all the time, even if they are Revit users, for that detailed design that allows them to make sure that a building, a project, something looks like theirs, right? And that has that sense of the human touch, for lack of a better term. But even beyond that, there is a way that 2D drawing allows the user to, again, convey that 2D plan, section, design intent in quick ways. That if you're working in a 3D environment and you need to output in 2D, you're not going to be, it's going to slow you down. So it's really about that detailed design, that documentation, that final step before a drawing goes out the door, where you need to say what the dimension of something is, say what the specification of something is, what the materiality of something is, that CAD really, 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 truly excels at. And I think that's going to continue to be the place that CAD has in the world.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think it's an area that most people shy away from when I ask these questions. I'm glad you hit it. Listen, 3D is brilliant. We do it all day, every day. We teach people how to do it, but the speed differential is always going to be there, right? Whether you're drawing with a stick in the sand to show someone what you're trying to do, or you want to take the time and carve out a wooden model, right? The 3D is always going to take much more time, and you're never going to be able to convey that same design intent as simply or as quickly as you can with a 2D tool like AutoCAD. It's just never going to happen in my mind. So a lot of people don't like to say that. They don't want to cross the great gods of BIM and digital modeling, which are all wonderful tools in the right place and time. But I think there's always going to be a need for that 2D CAD structure. I agree with you 100%. So. All right, folks. Listeners know, as always, when I have a guest, I like to give them the last word. All right, to kind of tell us something important that I didn't think to ask them about. So I'm going to give Dan that. And so, Dan, what else do you think our listeners should be thinking about in terms of today's topic?
Yeah, I think that listeners should, well, really two things. One is to really look into what it takes to advance your digital transformation practices, to understand the trade-off between the time it takes, but also the benefit in order to do it. There's a whole new world waiting for you on the other side of that exploration that is really only going to benefit you, your users, your company, and really just make you more money at the end of the day because things are going to be faster. But we also know it's our job to help you get there. And to that end is to look into ways to engage with us at Autodesk and on the AutoCAD team about what your needs are. We are always keeping our ears open to talk to customers. That's how we learn what you all want. And to think about like the bigger picture about what you're going to need in CAD now, in 5 years, in 10 years, and to engage with us. Send us emails. We're always listening and always open to having conversations. So I think however you can do that would be best.
Perfect. I like it. All right. And with that, folks, we are going to bounce out of here. But I did want to take a moment to thank Dan one more time for being with us. And I hope we weren't so crazy that you don't want to come back again, man. I really do appreciate you taking the time today, Dan.
Of course. Thank you.
It was a great interview.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, folks, we are out of here, and we will catch you next time on the Cattle Call Podcast. All right, everybody, today's Cattle Call was brought to you courtesy of Zentech Consultants. That's Rocco and I. Zentech Consultants works with design and manufacturing firms to help our clients purchase and implement the software that they need in these complex industries. We provide a single point of contact for clients to buy, develop, and learn the most vital software systems for your specific needs. Zentech strives to be your trusted technology partner from your initial needs all the way through long-term support and training for your entire staff. So Rocco, why don't you tell them how to reach out to Zentech?
All right, yeah, you can reach out to us through zentechconsultants.net. You can email us at sales@zentechconsultants.net, or you can even call us 866-824-4459.
Excellent. We look forward to hearing from you all.